Hello, welcome to Jason the Old Millennial. My name is Jason, speaking to you here in my basement of the great state of Kansas. Today's video, I'm continuing my long series of ranking my top 100 favorite albums of all time. I am at number 11 on my list, so we're getting very close to the top 10 favorite albums, according to about 2021 when I made this list together. But yeah, this is number 11, and it is not your typical album that a lot of people talk about. It's more of a hidden gem album for me, but I absolutely love this album. And it's called Strict Joy by, the group is called the Swell Season, but it's two individuals, which is Glenn Hansard and Marketa Glova. This is technically their second album that they came out with. Came out back in 2009. And yeah, great kind of indie folk rock album. Absolutely love it. Really excited to talk about it here on Jason the Old Millennial. Hello everybody, hope everybody's doing well on this kind of late Sunday afternoon, early evening period. Hope everybody's doing well in the cold. It's gotten a little warmer, it's in the 20s, which is nice. And I'll be much happier if my team, the Chiefs, win today. They're playing the Buffalo Bills actually in like an hour or so from now. So kind of nervous about that game. Hopefully we can get a win. That'd be great, and get the AFC Championship for a 6th year in a row. But enough about football. Getting to the topic, 100 favorite albums all time, according to my list I made in 2021, which my new list is much different, but still a lot of these songs are going to be really high on my list. These albums are going to be really high on my list because they're all 10 out of 10 albums, in my opinion. Just absolutely amazing. And this one, like I said, it's not as well-known one. It's not one anybody's going to talk about. But I hope, if anything, if anybody hears me talk about this, I hope you check this album out. And I hope some people fall in love with it like I do. But yeah, it's called the Strict Joy. Name of the group is the Swell Season, which is these two individuals, Glenn Hansard and Marketa Glova. Yeah, this is their second album, basically. The first album, they named the group the Swell Season, and I'll get into actually the whole history because it's actually a very interesting story. And I've talked about it before, but I have to talk about it again because I love the story behind this group, basically. And there's the album there. I really like this cover, by the way. It's a really cool cover. Love the digipack. But yeah, this came out back in 2009, so we're talking almost 14 years ago, which is crazy because I remember when it came out, I was so excited. But I'll give you a little bit of backstory behind this album, kind of, and the group itself. I'll give you a big backstory because I think I love talking about these two individuals. And it starts with this movie Once. Movie made back in 2006. And there's the two individuals, Glenn Hansard and Marketa Glova. Yeah, I saw this movie in the movie theater in 2006. I saw some reviews for it, got really good reviews, and I was like, this looks interesting. From what I saw, the music looks pretty good, and saw the movie and just fell in love with this movie. Absolutely love this movie. The music is absolutely amazing. Never heard of these two individuals, so I saw the movie, and I was like blown away by the music, and I was like, man, I want more. I want to hear more of these two singing together. They sound so good together. But I'll go a little bit back further than even this movie, to be honest. And tell you a little bit about these two individuals. Glenn Hansard was born in Ireland, and at age 13, quit school to become a full-time musician. Yeah, age 13, he was like, you know what, this school thing is not really for me. I know my career choice is going to be making music. And so he busked around Ireland, I think Dublin, Ireland, which means, he was outside playing his guitar and people were putting money in his guitar case, that's how he was making money at first. He then formed a band called The Frames which were a pretty big band in Ireland, it seems like, from what I've heard. They've never made it in the United States. None of their songs have ever been in, because growing up, I've never heard the Frames, never heard any of their music. I'm pretty sure they never made it out into America, anyways. And I don't know, maybe they made it out in Europe, but I'm guessing they were mostly big in Ireland, anyways. The Frames, and he was the lead singer and played guitar and wrote a lot of songs. And so they did good enough that he made enough money. He made a career out of this being in this band, the Frames, and touring and all that, and made 5 or 6 albums with them. Anyway, so in 2001, the Frames are in Czech Republic doing a concert, and the parents that were putting on the concert, they had a daughter named Marketa Glova, who was 13 years old at the time. Glenn Hansard was 31. So there's about an 18-year gap between the two. And they introduced their daughter, Marketa Glova, to Glenn Hansard and said, she's a very talented musician. She plays piano, she sings, she writes, and all this. And so he was very impressed by her at age 13, how talented she was. And I think he even had her come on stage and play with the band, the Frames, when they were in I forget what part of Czech Republic, whatever part of Czech Republic they were in. And he was so impressed that he, definitely wanted to help her music career and everything. He did what he could to help her out. Anyways, and so then we fast forward to 2006. One of the members of the Frames really wanted to be a director. He really wanted to make movies, even more than making music. And I forgot his name. I'm looking it up right now. John Carney. John Carney quits the band, the Frames, and he goes to film school. And one of the early films, or first film that he writes, is this movie Once. He wrote this idea for this movie. He wrote the screenplay and wanted to direct it. And he wrote it with Glenn Hansard in mind. Glenn Hansard's not an actor, he's a musician. I guess he thought, he wrote the character for him, thought that he would be perfect for this character. Of course, the character is Irish singer, so he fits the character great. So he obviously wrote him in mind, and Glenn Hansard agreed to do the part, even though he's never acted in the movie, to be the lead in his own movie, kind of playing a character similar to himself, I would say. Now, they needed someone to play the female part. And one of the funny things about the movie is the character names is Guy and Girl. They never give them first or last names. They're just known as Guy and Girl in the movie. And so he said, hey, I know this girl, Marketa Glova, really talented, piano player and singer, and I think she'd be perfect for the female role in this movie. So they asked her, and she agreed to it. She was 18 at the time, and he's 36, I believe, at this point. And so then Glenn Hansard and Marketa Glova write pretty much all the music. There's like maybe one song that they didn't write, but they pretty much write all the music for this kind of somewhat modern musical movie. And so they write the music together, they star in it together, even though neither one of them acted. They do a good job in the movie. Like I said, I love the movie. And John Carney he's done some other movies like Sing Street, I know, and some other stuff. So he's made movies, but none of them has been big as Once. Once is definitely his biggest movie that he's made so far. And it's definitely a low budget movie, but the music is just fantastic. I love the movie from this movie Once. And like I said, I fell in love with it in 2006 or 2007. I think I saw it in the movie theater and was like, I don't know these people, but I want to know more about these two individuals because they sound amazing together. Really just had so much great chemistry in the movie and in singing and all that. It's one of those duos that just fit so perfectly together. Their voices fit so well together. The style of music was just my style of music. Like I said, it's like a kind of indie folk rock type music. It's like one of my favorite styles of music. So it just worked so well for me. A lot of acoustic guitar playing, a lot of piano playing, and they harmonize. I say, their voices just meld together so well. And the big thing from this movie, if you know anything about this, is they have a song called Falling Slowly, which would go on to win the Oscar for Best Song. So they ended up winning an Oscar for doing this movie together. So, I mean, what a great pairing, what a great story of them two coming together. And, now they're little known musicians and they're on the big stage winning an Oscar, obviously a huge boost to their careers. Also in 2006, they also came out with an album called The Swell Season, which it's in my top 100 favorite albums. I talked about it on another stream. Yeah, so if you get that album, the album's called The Swell Season, which I think comes off of a poem or something like that. I think is where they came up with the idea of The Swell Season. So they make an album called The Swell Season, and it's by Glenn Hansard and Marketa Glova. So they use their individual names on it. And the album is mostly songs from the movie Once. Obviously, Once also has a soundtrack, which I don't have. I wish I had that because it's one of the best soundtracks of all time. But in the Swell Season, that album's really great too. Has a lot of the same songs. It's a little bit different. Like they had a different alternative take on the songs. So songs sound slightly different from the movie version, but are still really good. And yeah, so it's a really good album. I think it's only 10 songs or something like that. Not every song from the movie soundtrack, but quite a bit of the big ones anyways. Yeah, great album. So they put that out in 2006 along with the movie and the movie soundtrack. So that was a big year, 2006, 2007. I mean, it was a huge year for the group, for the two. Anyways, and interesting thing happened while they're making the movie. It's funny. It's a movie where they both are kind of romantic interests with each other. I don't want to give away too much about the movie. I totally recommend it. But it's a movie where there's definitely some romantic chemistry between the two characters, which, obviously happens, when you make a movie like this. And they end up having a relationship in real life. They end up dating and being a couple. Interesting enough, it's weird when you think about the history of he met her when she was 13, now she's 18, he's 36 or whatever, and they're making this movie, and they kind of fall in love in real life in a sense, and so they start dating anyways. So it's like movie, or real life. What do you say? Real life is copying movie life or whatever, which is kind of interesting how that happens. So anyway, so they're dating and they're touring. So they're going on tours, and they're, of course, have a pretty big following from this movie. And so they're touring all over the place, getting really good crowds. And if you go on YouTube, you can find some really good footage of them in concert, singing together. Anyway, so he's kind of taking a break from the frames, and he's just kind of doing music with Marketa. Anyway, so there's even a documentary out there, actually, about their relationship and about their time between these two albums, actually, between the Swell Season and then Strict Joy. And I'm trying to think of the movie might be called The Swell Season. It's a documentary that they made kind of, about their popularity, how they kind of just rose to popularity with this movie, and then kind of their relationship and how that, how that happened within all that and all the craziness of the touring and all that. Yeah, it's a very interesting documentary. If you like the movie, I really recommend the documentary as well. But anyway, so between this time period, the touring and all this, anyways, they're dating, they're, all this stuff. And this lasted till about 2009. So between about 2007, 2009, and then 2009, they broke up. They've kind of, I think Marketa was tired of touring. I don't think she liked touring that much. It seemed like if you watch the documentary, you'll see they do have a fight in the documentary where she just, I don't know, he's used to touring because he's been touring for a long time in his life, and she's not used to it, and so she kind of, I don't know, doesn't like it, and they fight over it anyways. And, well, they eventually break up anyways, and you kind of see that in the documentary, interestingly enough. So now we get to 2009. They're working on this album, Strict Joy, their second album. But instead of calling themselves by their individual names, they decided to take on the name The Swell Season, the name of the first album, and make that their group name. So they are I kind of refer them as the Swell Season, which is easier than saying their individual names. So you kind of say this is the Swell Season's basically second album together, which is these two individuals. So they're working on this album called Strict Joy. And I remember when they're talking about this album coming out, I was so excited because I was like, man, I love Once. I love the Swell Season, the first album, which I don't own. I need to get those. And so when they were coming out another one, I'm like, oh yes, please give me more of these two singing together. I was so excited, so hyped up when they announced that they were making a second album. And I mean, what's interesting, like I said, is that they were breaking up while they were making this album. So it is an interesting album where like you can kind of see some of the tension between the two within the album. Uh, yeah, it's an incredible album. You know, it kind of reminds me of like Rumors from Fleetwood Mac. It's like you write a song about somebody and you're singing it with that person that you're writing about. So, I mean, I can only presume that these songs are probably written about each other in some sense, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, so this album comes out in 2009. I went on iTunes. At the time, I was doing a lot of iTunes. So I went on iTunes and I bought the whole album on iTunes and put it on my iPod and listened to it. And it was like, wow, they nailed it. I mean, the first album, Swell Season, is great. This album's even better. I was like, wow, I didn't think they could ever top themselves. And they did with this album. Like I said, the voices just work so well together. She plays piano, he plays the acoustic guitar. He has just an amazing singing voice, Glenn Hansard. I mean, you have to check him out. He has this great ability to sing very loud and on key kind of thing. He's really good at crescendoing from soft to louds. And I've never heard somebody sing that well, that loud. And like he's screaming, basically screaming as he's singing. And it sounds absolutely amazing. And you hear all the emotions in his voice. Like, wow, that's a very, you know, he puts it all out there in the song. That's what I love about Glenn Hansard. All over, just really great voice. And Mercado is a good singer as well, very good piano player. Them together just sound amazing. Yeah, so this album comes out, it hits number 15 on the Billboard Top 200, so it does well. I think obviously there's a lot of fans that were excited for this, just like me. They only had one single come out, which is In These Arms, which is a very good song. Yeah, one of my favorite on the album, actually. But yeah, every song is just absolutely amazing on here. Mostly like in the first album and in the movie and this. I mean, to me, Glenn Hansard's really kind of dominates them, like as far as vocally and as far as writing. It seems like he's writing most of the songs. He lead sings most of them, I would say. Pretty much, yeah, most of them. So it feels like he maybe is the premier writer in the group. And I don't want to say Marquetta's not good. She's definitely, obviously very good, and them together are great. She does have two songs. Sometimes they sing together really good, and then sometimes he'll sing a song that sounds almost like just him. It's like almost like a solo song, and she'll sing a song which seems like just a Marquetta Glover solo song, and he'll kind of maybe pitch in on the chorus or something. She has two songs on here, Fantasy Man and I Have Loved You Wrong. And two actually pretty good songs on here. Like I said, she only gets like maybe two like really lead singers on here. Both, yeah, really good songs on here. So she does a really good job with what I think better than the first album. I think she has better songs on here. But yeah, everything's great. From Low Rising, Feeling the Pull. Feeling the Pull is this great upbeat acoustic song, really fun. In These Arms, great kind of love song. The Range, another really nice kind of more pop song, I guess. Paper Cup, very slow moving acoustic guitar song, but just very beautiful. Yeah, High Horses, The Verb, Love Conquers, Two Tongues, Backbroke. I can't say enough how much I love this album and all these songs in it. Yeah, so they make this album and then they break up at this point. So then they kind of go their separate ways, unfortunately, which is so sad. They only have two albums, The Swell Season and Strict Joy. It's the only two albums they have, which is just almost a travesty. And this came out in 2009, so we've had 14 years that they haven't made music together, which is just very sad. Maybe there's some hard feelings at first when they first broke up. Kind of went their separate ways. Glenn Hansard started doing some solo work, and he's made like 4 or 5 solo albums. Since then, none of them have been big hits or anything. He hasn't done anything real big with that. He did appear a year or two ago in a movie called Cyrano. He had a small part where he was one of the soldiers writing a letter back to his wife, and there's a whole song. It's a really good song in the movie Cyrano if you've seen it. But yeah, that's what he's done. You know, of course, a lot of touring and stuff. Marquetta, interesting enough, she ended up moving to Iceland, Reykjavik, Iceland, and she married a music producer there in Iceland. And they got married, and they're still married, and they've had 3 kids, and they live together there in Reykjavik, Iceland. And she's made some solo albums herself, which I've listened to some. I'm not as big fan of the solo work as I am with them together. I think it's really where they're the best anyways. So they kind of went their separate ways and didn't really do much. I feel like they still stayed friends. In fact, they, I don't know when it was, but a little bit ago, they made a Broadway musical out of the movie Once, and it won a bunch of Tonys. It was hugely successful. And so that movie still giving them a lot of joy and a lot of awards to this day. And they've been seen together at the Tony. They were together, watching their thing that they wrote, win a bunch of awards. And so it seems like they're friendly to each other, at least. That's good. And they would appear every once in a while together. But the great news for me is that this last year they went on a big tour together. I don't know if they did America. I think they went to Europe. Unfortunately, they never went anywhere near me, or I'd be the first one to buy a ticket to go see them, sing. I'd love that. But they did a big tour together, so it was great. It's like, oh wow, they're together, they're doing a tour. And they even came out with a new song that you can check out on YouTube or on Spotify called The Answer Is Yes, I think is the name of the song. And so it's the first song that they've written together since 2009, in 13 years or whatever. And it's a great song. Like I remember like, oh wow, they wrote a new song. Like I'm like, this is so exciting. And I remember watching the YouTube video of it, and it was like, this song's amazing. Like they still have it. They still sound so great together. They still can write together. And from what I've heard, it sounds like, yeah, they got together and they started writing together. And this was a song that they put out. But it sounds like they wrote some other songs together. So this makes me super excited. I'm just so hopeful that they come out with a third album soon. Because it sounded like they were writing some songs together while they were together touring. So, I would be so excited. I'd love it if they come out with a third album the next year or two. Because, man, they need more albums out there. If the first two albums are absolutely amazing, like, I need more of the Swell season. Anyway, so yeah, that's kind of the story behind the group. I think it's very interesting how that all came about. And yeah, so it gets to my top 3 favorite songs. All 10 songs or whatever on here are just absolutely amazing. They can all go in my top 3. But this last time I was listening to it, number 3, I put Paper Cup on here. Like I said, it's a little more slow moving acoustic guitar song, mostly Glenn Hansard singing here. But beautiful music, I think, and Glenn sounds so great on here, and it's just a really nice sounding melody of a song. Absolutely love this song. Number 2, I have In These Arms, which was the big single, and like I said, I love. I think the lyric is, "I was meant to hold you like in these arms" or something like that. So it's a very romantic kind of song. Again, another great acoustic guitar song with both of them singing together. It sounds really great. Number 1 actually is Two Tongues, which one of my favorite songs they ever did. And it's a song they sing together. It sounds great. And I love the song says 2 tongues in your mouth, which I think it means like one tongue telling the truth, one tongue lying to you. And like I said, they were breaking up at this point. So I think it was a song, I'm reading into this maybe, but it felt like a song about, someone who's betraying you. They have 2 tongues. But it's just an absolutely beautiful song. The harmonies are just absolutely amazing. There's some really good piano in there along with the acoustic guitar, and it's just a beautiful melody, beautiful song. Some good bass guitar work too as well. I love the bass guitar in this song. And yeah, definitely check these 3 songs out. Check this album out if you haven't. I know I bought this album for Adam from What the Gym. I know he's listened to it and he enjoyed it as well. So hopefully he'll give his thoughts on here. But yeah, definitely one of those hidden gem albums that if you haven't heard of it, please check it out. Strict Joy by the Swell Season. So that is the end of my video, my 11th favorite song of all time. Please feel free to comment. I'd love to read some comments about if you heard of this group or this song or this album. Yeah, I'd love to hear any comments about it, or hopefully tell me you're going to check it out. I'd love to read that. But anyways, yeah, it's a comment in there, and just thank you to everybody who liked this album. Thank you to anybody who liked this video. Thank you to anybody who's watching it. Of course, appreciate all of you, and thank you to all my subscribers for supporting the channel. I really appreciate you all.